there are people who are right now saying that for the good of the overall race, we need to get rid of a few people. The population bomb threatens the peace of the world. So what are we going to do about it? There's a campaign to check the population explosion. For a lot of these thinkers, it's a zero-sum game. Rather than embracing the beauty of what it means to be human, rather than recognizing and realizing that human beings are made by God, that every individual life matters, they look at life through this kind of very limited lens, and they say we have a few too many people. Maybe a plague would be good. You actually hear people saying these kinds of things. The irony is that places like Europe are in the middle of a population decline. They're in the middle of a population crisis. China itself lifted its two-child policy. In this kind of view, what's really key is understanding what happens when you prioritize the wrong things. When you prioritize the quote-unquote greater good, you're going to be willing to sterilize a few people. You're going to be willing to take extraordinary steps to prevent some people from having children. When you start from the premise that kids aren't a natural good created by God in the image of God, then you're going to start viewing humanity as a problem to be managed. And the tragedy of this is that human beings are incredibly adaptive creatures. We're actually really amazingly great when we're unleashed at adapting to an environment, at adapting to changes in populations. And we've done this throughout human history. I'm not doing a lecture on population control, though. I just want you to get a sense of how folks who are in the progressive wing and how progressive ideology leads to certain perspectives that are ultimately very dangerous. Let me give you another example of this. This is actually more recent. President Joe Biden just nominated to lead the Bureau of Land Management a woman named Tracy Stone Manning. This is an ad that she produced for a magazine for her thesis. As you can see, it's got a picture of a cute little kid. It's not necessarily the best picture. And it says, "Can you find the environmental hazard in this photo?" Let me ask you a question. What do you think the environmental hazard is, according to Tracy Stone Manning, someone who's about to be appointed to a high office in our government? Well, I'm going to pull it up here. The resolution's not great, but I'm going to let you see what she thinks of as the problem. What's the environmental hazard? Here's what that says if you can't read it yourself. It says, "That's right. It's the cute baby. Americans believe that overpopulation is only a problem somewhere else in the world, but it is a problem here too. The earth is only so big, and we can tap into it only so often. In America, we tap in often and hard. We breed more than any other industrialized nation." Notice how they talk about childbirth. Notice how they talk about people. Again, you see this fundamentally different commitment, this different view of human beings. We breed more than any other industrialized nation. At the same time, we suck up 1/3 of the world's energy. Again, not a lecture on energy usage, but America also does more to produce for the world than any other country in the world. That energy usage redounds to things like crop yields that help people around the world, technology that helps better the lives of people all over the planet. It goes on to say, on average, each of us gobbles up the same energy as 3 Japanese, 13 Chinese, and 499 Ethiopians. I wonder what they want us to live like if they're saying we're over-consuming. When we overpopulate, the earth notices it more. Stop at 2. It could be the best thing you do for the planet. Now that's the progressive movement. That's how they see the world. This is not something that's reserved back to the 1920s. Those ideas started by early American progressives, had an impact on the thinking of Adolf Hitler. In fact, the guy I've referenced earlier who talked about the death of a great civilization, of a great human species, this guy who was a American progressive promoting eugenics, Adolf Hitler actually read his book when he was in prison and wrote a note to this American scholar and said to him, "Your book is my Bible." It wasn't reserved to that era, though. It's continued on through the 70s. And I believe that if you take a look, you see the consequences of what happens when a group of people reject the basic ideas that helped start our country and that were rooted in the Judeo-Christian worldview. The progressive rejection, that's what I call it. The progressives rejected the founders and the Bible's understanding of reality as created, of humanity as endowed with God's image and valuable. And thus, they rejected the role of government. And really, the 20th century is the story of the progressive movement attempting to redefine America and say, what are we all about? I share this because I want you to understand something, that the issues that we're facing today go back to the concept of worldview, that there are fundamentally different ways that we see the world. And when you see the world in different ways, you come to different conclusions about what is the worth of an individual life over against society, and what is the role of government in society. And that has resulted, I think we can see throughout the 20th century, a whole family of different progressive concepts and ideologies like communism, socialism, certain forms of radical feminism, the sexual revolution and sexual revolutionism, certain forms of environmentalism are clearly rooted in progressive notions. Critical race theory and critical racism, which I'm going to be talking about probably in a couple streams from now. And finally, globalism. All of these different families come from this progressive movement. And I believe when you take a look at them, you'll see there's the same basic ideas. A denial of the created reality in which God gives human rights and also designs the plan for human flourishing. And then a belief that the government itself has the right to give, to grant, or to take away rights, and also to impose a vision for the greater